everybody. Welcome to City Girls Pod. And this is a show where we talk all things Sex in the City. And we are about to finish up our look at the Carrie Diaries. We're in the final stretch. You should say that.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about episodes 8 and 9 of season 2. It's gonna be super fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner and Jack's here.
Hello. We definitely plan to both dress in pink. We're just connected. We actually didn't, but we're that connected.
Well, how was London? You just got back from a trip.
It was great. I got to meet my new little niece and she's really cute. So it was really fun. Very rainy, as you might imagine. So it's nice to be back in the relative sunshine now.
Yeah, good.
How was your Easter?
Mine was very simple. My Easter, we didn't really do a family meal because my parents were out of town, and so it was just my parents were just coming back into town, I guess, because my dad did help me. I got a second monitor for my studio. Woohoo! Yeah. So that's fun. So my dad helped me with that, but we didn't do like a family meal, so it was pretty chill.
But that's kind of a nice Easter. You're like, hey, Dad, help me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, my dad is really funny. Like, he is so excited about anything that his kids are involved in. Like, we were at I can't remember where we were at, but he was like, yeah, he's like, my daughter is we were at the play. We went to a play. My daughter is a famous a children's book writer, and which is like actually kind of true. Like, she's had some hits and stuff. And he's like, and then my other daughter is a famous film and theater critic. I'm like, oh, we're stretching here. and he was going on about that. It was funny.
Like, that's so cute. He's like, I'm raising famous kids. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
That's so cute.
So anyway, yes. So we are talking about episodes 8 and 9, like we said, and episode 8 is called The Second Time Around. And it's Carrie is delighted when she gets the chance to interview the CEO of Bongo Jeans, but the pressure is on when Larissa tells Carrie that this is her last chance to land a piece in Interview magazine. Mouse gets some news that drives an unexpected wedge between her and West, and Sebastian's father delivers other news that could forever change Sebastian and Carrie's relationship. Elsewhere, Walt finds a surprising father figure in Tom, and Maggie tries to muster the courage to tell her dad the truth about the last few months. So overall, what do you think about this episode?
There was a lot going on, but I actually thought that it was really well managed. A lot of the stuff with Walt was really heartbreaking, but it felt very true and really handled in a very gentle, respectful way. The situation with Mouse and West, I'm excited to dive in because I was like, I want to know Rachel's opinion on what is going down here, because I felt very conflicted about the whole thing. And it's really hard to see the situation with Maggie. Like, this girl has been through a lot, and for a while I was a little bit mad at her, but now I just have a ton of empathy for her character.
Yeah. So there was kind of a lot going on with this. Yeah. So we start out with Maggie going back to school, and people are looking at her. They all know, and yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Of high school is such a rumor mill. It would be really hard to have anything like that happen.
Yeah, it'd be really hard, and I think that she already didn't really feel like she totally fit in. So it's this thing of she knows everyone's staring at her now, and also she's just been through a trauma.
Yeah. I was thinking about it, that there was this it was kind of like a GT class, kind of like a special school for it was like adult high school, that in my school, where if you got pregnant, all of a sudden you were transferred to that school. Really? And yes, and I at the time I didn't really think that much of it, but now in retrospect I'm like, that's kind of mean. Like,
Yeah, it seems sort of shocking.
yeah. But at the time, I remember thinking, oh, well, they'd want to be, they wouldn't want it, they'd be embarrassed or something. I remember just thinking, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that was mean to exclude them. Like,
It's
you're not
it's
all of a sudden an adult just because you got pregnant. Like, you need more support, arguably, not less support.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. I look back on certain things from my childhood or when I was younger that I just accepted as like, oh, that's the right thing.
Yeah.
Then you look back and you're like, oh, okay, I'll unpack that a little, you know?
It's true.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Yeah. So then we also have Carrie and Sebastian are finally like in a relationship. And it's
Like it's
they
working.
yeah. And so that's kind of fun. And then we have Walt's mother has packed him up. The dad doesn't want to talk to him because they find out that he's gay. That was tough. That was tough, but accurate. I mean, 1984.
Absolutely accurate. And the way Carrie goes to her dad, and I thought even the conversation, like they were speaking in this sort of coded language, she's saying like,
Mhm.
know that Walt doesn't like people like me. And like they're like talking around the words.
Yeah.
Then Walt comes out later and just says, I'm gay. And then Carrie's dad is able to say that. And I think that,
Mhm.
it's so heartbreaking. And I think this actor played it so well. Like it was very gently played. It wasn't over the top, but you could see his deep pain over this.
Yeah. And his dad, he says, we shouldn't be getting involved in other families' problems. It does make me a little uncomfortable. And you could say, oh, well, that's cringe that he said that. But like, we don't want shows with perfect characters who say the right thing all the time. That's not interesting. Like, to me, this feels more legitimate to what somebody in 1984, even today, of course, you still have this, but I felt like okay, this is what he would say. And then he has this conversation with his daughter, and he says, you're right, of course he can stay. So that felt more authentic than having like the perfect response right out of the gate.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it totally fits his character to be very open-hearted, which it's that even that comment doesn't come across as like hateful,
Mhm.
but you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the 1980s and he's a man of a certain age who's like you wouldn't think would be particularly open-minded.
Yeah.
So I think that it really works well.
Mhm. Yeah, and so you have Walt staying in Dorot's room, and I think that they probably should have asked Dorrit about this first. It seemed like she wasn't really in on the conversation, which probably would have been good.
Yeah, Dort already feels like she doesn't have any agency within her family. So I think that, it would have just been like, oh, hey, heads up.
Mhm. Yeah, and so then we have Samantha. She's using the interview phone for personal calls, and she's not like working there though, right?
I don't think so. But yeah, I know I had the same thought. I'm like, is girlfriend having a job there? What's going on?
Because she has the coming up later, she has the bird thing. So I think I was a little bit confused. I'm like, did she get a job here?
Yeah. What is she doing in it? Yeah.
Um, and then we have Maggie running into Simon and the fiance. And yeah, he really is a supervillain at this point. Like, he's terrible.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, it's great about this show that, at first, like Donna LaDonna seemed like she was a super villain without any layers. And then you peel back the layers and she is a gosh darn delight. But I mean, he's someone that I'm like, oh, he exhibits violent, even more actual violent behavior later, but like, not check in on her. He is truly a piece of,
Yeah, he definitely should be in a Lifetime thriller.
yes.
Yes.
100%. Like, he's just disgusting.
But you'd think that he would be kind of more, I don't know, almost more schmoozing up Maggie to get her to not say any of these things. Like, he would have character motivation to keep Maggie as happy as possible.
Totally. And I think that's something interesting about this is, I think most guys would be nervous about that, but it's almost like he's next level narcissist or entitlement, that he's like, oh, she would never do that to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe she wouldn't if you didn't treat her. And that actually would have been awful if she just would have been under his spell the whole time. But he's awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
So Larissa comes back from Aspen and she's like, Team Denim. That's what she wants. Yeah. I do like a good pair of jeans. There's something it does make, they can be so flattering.
Yes.
A good pair of jeans.
Yes. But I will say it takes time. It takes time to find the right ones.
It's true. I have like, most plus size girls will tell you this, but I have like at any given time, like eight different pairs of jeans in like all these different sizes,
All different.
because things fluctuate so much. So I'm like, I never want to get rid of, I should probably get rid of I just want to be ready for any situation.
Be ready. Yeah. I want to be ready for any situation.
Yeah. But
I was at the store the other day and I was like, oh, I've seen this trend of like the bigger leg jeans on the bottom.
Yeah.
And Rachel, I put them on. I wish I would have taken a picture, and I was just like, oh, these
were
are
they
not
like true bell bottoms, or were they just like a boot cut?
Oh, no. It was like even more. Okay. So even more bell bottomy than bell bottoms, like way wider. Like that's some sort of trend. And
oh, wow.
They weren't even boot cut, and they were like huge in the leg and the bottom. And I was like, oh, maybe they'll look good on. No.
Yeah.
So you got to get the right pair of jeans.
Yeah. Well, so Larissa tells Carrie that she's going to give a second chance. She loves second chances, not third. And this seems a little unrealistic to me. This is literally an unpaid intern. Like, I don't think that you would be expecting her to land like major interviews.
Well, definitely not. And also, let's keep in mind that Carrie didn't actually do anything wrong. Like, she disappointed Larissa, but she actually made contact with the person that she was supposed to talk to. And then if she felt like it was a conflict of interest, and it's not like she screwed up a major story that was already like in the can. Like, he wouldn't have given that scoop to anyone but Carrie. Yeah. So I don't even think Carrie did anything wrong.
Yeah. And I don't know why she couldn't have just written like a normal article like about Weaver, like just not include those things. Like, does anybody really care that much about like Broadway writers?
No, unfortunately not. I wish they did.
I guess maybe like Lin-Manuel Miranda or somebody like that is maybe tabloid worthy, but I can't think of anybody else.
No. And
like, are people out there for like the buzz on Stephen Schwartz or something? Like, no, nobody cares. Like, what?
It's like you and me, Rachel. That's who wants to know. Yeah, I don't think the greater public at large. And And I think that I'm still surprised that, especially when things were good between her and Weaver, that he couldn't have given her a scoop that he felt comfortable with, but they could have like
Yeah.
done it together.
Yeah. So we have Walt watching Golden Girls, and the dad comes in. I guess his name is Tom. I just refer to him as Dad.
I do too.
They start watching Golden Girls. So do you have a Golden Girl that you relate to? They say that everybody wants to be Dorothy in this. So do you agree? Do you have a Golden Girl that you
I definitely
connect with?
think my Golden Girl is Rose. What about you?
I think people might say, because people see me as being kind of bubbly and sweet, so they might see me as Rose, but I don't know. I feel like I feel like you're smarter, and I feel like
Yeah,
I'm smarter than Rose. I don't feel like I mean, not that I would say Rose is ditzy per se, just sort of not aware. Like that's her bit, and it's funny and
right,
hilarious.
she's simple. Like she's
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not a Blanche. I don't have that much confidence. Dorothy. Yeah. I mean, maybe everybody does kind of want to be Dorothy, and it's interesting.
I think there's something interesting in that, in the fact that, like, if I really think about it, like, I don't think of myself as like a Sophia, because I'm like, oh, she's the older one. But like, maybe personality wise, it's closer than Rose is. Cause like Sophia's fun, she's a Spitfire, but well, she's always kind of cracking jokes on other people too. It's interesting
Yeah.
that all these like fascinating personalities, but
Yeah.
when Walt's trying to explain what the show is about, he's like, no, they just kind of sit around, they eat cheesecake.
Yeah. Yeah. They do have a lot of time where they're just talking, and it's a very funny show. I really enjoy it. I mean, it's hard because I don't know if there's anybody truly like both Blanche and Rose. Like they're both kind of characters, but they work within the ensemble.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
They were so excellently acted that you were just like, oh, these characters like pop off the page.
yeah. So Walt says this was the most fun, more fun than I've ever had with my own dad. And he says, my parents made me feel bad about what I'm doing. So if I don't do it, they won't hate me so much. And then Dad says, you're not a bad person. You just don't like girls. And he says, we want things to be easy for our kids. You being gay makes your life harder, but your parents shouldn't be part of what makes that hard. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, I think I understand that component of it making someone's life harder and even maybe having a little bit of difficulty accepting that. But to kick your kid out,
No.
I mean, it's really hard for me to find empathy for that. Like, they're not just a little weird to him, about it. Like they kicked him out.
It kind of made me think of The Family Stone in that. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
It's not like my favorite movie because I just find like family stress like that kind of stressful. So I don't particularly think it's that funny. But there's an interesting scene in the movie where there's one of the sons of the family is deaf and gay and in a relationship, and they're talking, and the mom says, "Oh, we always wanted to have a gay son. That was like a goal of ours." And Sarah Jessica Parker's character says, why would you want that? Because that's like asking for your child's life to be harder. Like, and what she's trying to say, and maybe she doesn't say it that well, and I'm not remembering the exact words, but that like, it is harder. And a lot of people were really offended by that scene. And I guess I can understand why, but I felt like what she's saying isn't not true. Like it is harder. So like, why would you specifically want the life for your child to be harder? You know does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it totally makes sense. And this is one of those interesting things, and even interesting with that character, like thinking about like the queer community and the deaf community. Like it's one of those things like, okay, you might not necessarily, I'll just talk about it like in terms of someone being deaf. You might not wish for your child to be deaf because yes, it would make it harder. But then also if your child is deaf, there's all these other amazing things that are going to happen in the child's life that wouldn't happen otherwise. And they're part of a very special community. And I think that you can look at the being gay in that way too. So like, I agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily think that that's a problematic statement. I just think it's investigating it more of like, okay, you might not wish for that, but you also might not wish to take that away.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, yeah. And it's probably just coming out from the wrong angle. Yeah. But I don't think the statement was inherently homophobic.
I don't either. Yeah.
I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. 3 friends, 2 broken promises, 1 missing manuscript. Book lovers and contemporary romance readers, don't miss this new book from Nicole Deese. In The Words We Lost, editor Ingrid Erickson is given a sealed envelope from her late best friend by the man who shattered her belief in happily ever afters, and sent on a hunt for a hidden manuscript that may finally lead to the healing she's been searching for. Buy The Words We Lost for 40% off and free shipping at bakerbookhouse.com using code DEESE40. That's bakerbookhouse.com, code DEESE40, DEESE40. Okay, so then Maggie tells her dad, and then her dad fires Simon and he gets dumped. He says that. And so he comes into the school and he fights Sebastian. And
trash. This man is trash.
Yeah, he really is. He's terrible. And I mean, I was honestly like a little bit surprised by Maggie's dad's reaction. That, I don't know, because he had been kind of a pig up until then. So I was a little bit surprised that he did that he wasn't more like excusing Simon or something like that, that his response was so immediate, like he saw him as the pig that he is.
You know, there was something about him that the fact that he reacted that way, like the way he reacted about thinking Sebastian was the dad, I was like, oh, he's gonna feel wildly betrayed by Simon. Like, so I wasn't too surprised, but I mean, that was so, what I was surprised about though, was that he was actually really, really gentle with Maggie and didn't blame her at all. And that was really heartening to me because, as we've expressed before, the show can be very problematic because we literally have adults being with kids and acting like they both have the same agency and they don't.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And I liked that Sebastian's dad defends him after he gets expelled and says, you stood up for what was right. And I don't think that he would get expelled for one fight. I don't know. That seems, I could think he would probably be suspended, but expelled seems like a pretty tough, when like literally this is a person from the outside. This is not a fellow student coming in, an adult attacking him. Like, I feel like an expulsion is kind of extreme.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was surprised by Sebastian's dad's reaction. I thought he was going to be mad at Sebastian, like, oh, you're stepping up again. So that made me feel good. But yeah, to your point, Rachel, I mean, an adult came in and attacked a student and we have witnesses to prove it. This isn't done. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's wild that he would get suspended. I think they could be like, you can't be doing that. You beat the crap out of that guy. But also,
like, I mean, like, what's he supposed to do? Just stand there and let him get beaten up? Like, what?
Well, the thing about it is, oh my gosh, what is that guy's name? I can't even think of trash.
Simon.
Simon, thank you. He was so unhinged that, like, I do agree. Like, even though Sebastian really went for it, then like Simon, it wasn't like Simon just got in his face. Like Simon was really attacking him. So yeah, it truly was a case of self-defense.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Sebastian is going to be moving to California with his dad. They're going to Laguna Beach.
Let's go visit.
So then we also have in this episode, we find out Mouse got into Harvard, and West is excited for, happy for. He didn't apply to Harvard because he didn't want it. There's evidently a rule of only one admittance per high school, which I don't think is true.
No.
And but he thinks it's true, and so he thinks if he backs down because he has a slightly higher, he got valedictorian, and he has this, these team things and this other stuff, that he would take Mouse's spot, and Mouse really wants to get in. So then this starts a big fight between them. He says, "I'm tired of your obsessiveness. I'm exhausted from your endless need of competition." What did you feel about this with Mouse and West?
This is tricky because this whole thing felt tricky to me because I really like both of them. I understand why he did what he did. But then also Mouse wasn't rubbing it in his face. She was just concerned about him. And yeah, was it, I'm sure, annoying, and he felt like she was being condescending and all that? Sure. But then you told her this, and how do you think she's going to feel? So this left me feeling all mixed up inside and bummed out for both of them. How were you? What was your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I do think Mouse would be kind of an exhausting person to be around, particularly when it comes to school and everything. But also, you can't ask somebody to be something other than who they are, and this is who she is. And remember an old video we used to watch at church where this character picks up a snake and walks the snake up the hill, and then the snake bites him at the end, and he says, I just helped you, why did you bite me? And he says, the snake says to him, you knew what I was when you picked me up. I think that that's like true. Like, he knew who Mouse was from the beginning. She's never tried to be anything other than who she is. And maybe you finally realize, I'm not compatible with this person, but to, I don't know, kind of hold her accountable now when she's finally gotten what she really wants seems a little bit tough.
Yeah. Also, let's be clear with the fact that they were drawn to each other because they're both like this to a certain extent. So yeah, I don't understand. I love that story about the snake because I think you're exactly right. He knew, and not only knew, but it wasn't one of those things where it was like, okay, I understand this about you. I don't like it, but I accept it. It seemed like that's what it was attracting.
Yeah.
Into her.
Yeah. So then we do get some Christmas in this episode, which was fun. Decorating the tree. The dad gets Walt his own stocking, which is very sweet. And then Mouse finds out that her idol professor actually shepherded in her application, so it didn't have anything to do with West. And I don't know where he got this. I do not believe for a second that there's a one per school for Harvard, because there's definitely like feeder schools that like expensive schools, private schools and stuff like that have multiple people going to Harvard. It's not just one per school.
No, and when he had said that the alumni or the alumnus that visited the school said they would probably only take one. It's like, she literally is just a Harvard grad. And like,
yeah, she's not even an official representative of the school. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess he could have just been misinformed from that lady.
Yeah, like maybe he really didn't want to go to Harvard that much.
Well, and there's so many schools right there in Cambridge that you don't have to go to Harvard. You could go to University of Massachusetts. You could go to You could go to Ithaca and you wouldn't be that far away. You could go to like Cornell.
Yeah.
You could go, there's just tons of schools up there in New England.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have to go to Harvard. You go to Yale if you want.
Right. Right. And maybe that was something that
Brown.
actually there's so many great schools. I think that might have been something that pushed West's button when he's like, oh, it's other schools. And she's like, but this is Harvard. And like,
Yeah.
she was kind of putting her own feelings on it.
I think that it would obviously be an incredible experience to go to Harvard, but there is something to be said about, do you want to be big fish in small pond or small
Mm-hmm.
in the ocean, like, because if you're in Harvard, there's going to be, everybody else is going to be like you. Whereas if you go to like UConn or, some place like that, you're going to be at the top tier. So you're going to stand out more. And when it comes to it, like the biggest advantage of going to a place like Harvard is the connections that you make, right?
Absolutely.
But if you're one of the standouts in another university, you're going to get those same connections because you're the top.
Yeah.
And so I mean, especially if budget comes into play, which we don't know really anything about West's family. So we don't know about his, if they can afford, Harvard.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So then they kind of encourage Walt to go into the city and to see Bennett for Christmas. And then you have Walt, Bennett, Larissa, and Samantha celebrating Christmas together.
I don't know what it was, but that made me emotional. I was like, yes, friend.
It was cute. It was cute. And then Sebastian and his dad are in California, and we find out Larissa is going to be publishing Carrie's article that she did.
Yeah.
So this was a pretty good episode, I think. I don't know. I give it I think like a 9. I think this was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I thought it was handled really well. It packed in a lot without it feeling overstuffed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would also give it a 9.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have episode 9, Under Pressure. So this is Larissa gives Carrie some harsh advice about her relationship with Sebastian. When Harlan asked Tom to work overnight on a top secret case, Dora decides to throw an impromptu get-together, which quickly spirals out of control. Meanwhile, Mouse and Donna get surprisingly close, and Sebastian makes a hasty decision after another fight with his parents. So the thing is, they always show these kind of parties in movies and shows, teen movies and shows. I have never, I mean, I probably would not have been like the first person people would thought of for inviting to a party like this. So they may have existed and I just wasn't aware. I mean, I did go to some parties, but it was more like hanging out with red cups, and like that's one thing I love about The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I mean, I love so much about that movie. One of my favorites, but I love the fact that the party is just like them hanging out in the basement. Like he makes a milkshake, like just that's more real to me. That's more legit than these like, we're going to like trash the house. Everything's loud, crazy. I don't know. If you're listening and you've been to those parties when you're a teen, tell us, because I never saw it. I don't think it really happens. What do you think, Jax? Were you a party animal in high school?
Oh, Rachel, I think we would have been hanging out together in high school.
Yeah.
It's funny because this was on and Alex was watching it sort of with me. And he was like, oh my gosh, did you guys have those kind of parties in high school? Like, is that an American thing?
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah.
and I said, oh no, like my people in my high school partied hard, but they called it out the bush and it was in the woods. I, of course, never got invited to that. Wasn't there even one time. So, but Rachel, yeah, I really would love if listeners did have those big iconic parties because I didn't drink in high school, but I would have loved to have gone to one because it seems in all of the high school movies and TV shows, we see this as being a sort of rite of passage.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something that most people actually experience.
Yeah, I mean, the closest I can think of is we would have cast parties at the end of the plays that I was in. And those would be, I don't know, like they'd have music and stuff, I guess, but just a lot more chill than they ever show in these. Like I said, it's just kind of hanging out in a friend's basement. That's more what it was like.
Have you ever seen that it's an SNL sketch about cast parties? It's like a song rap about a cast party. I have to, it's so funny because yeah, it was like we went to like Denny's or went to someone's house and like, I mean, the theater kids, look, we grew up nerds, we're still nerds usually, like it's just the way it is. So the cast parties look very different than me.
Well, I remember we would get a Subway party sub, you know, those like long, like, you know, 3-foot or whatever. And that was like super cool. Like, oh, wow, we spent money.
Party sub and orange soda, people.
Like, I do remember there being alcohol at a few parties, but again, it was more of like a chill, like chill thing than it was a like crazy thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they do have the pot brownies, which I had never heard of until I was an adult. So they may have been there. They may have not been. I have no idea. I have no idea if they were there or not.
They could have been there, but you weren't. You don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I ate one without knowing, but it's possible. I had never heard of a pot brownie until yeah.
Well, it seems also the pot brownie seems like a risky thing to have as a kid because, like, are you making it at home with your parents there? Like, it all just seems complicated.
Yeah, it does. I don't know why it just made me think of this, but in that Never Been Kissed, when she's, I love this scene when she's eating the pie and just she wakes up and she's like, I ate the whole pie. And I feel like that's more the vibe going on at parties.
Yeah.
I was at in high school.
Same.
You do have Dorrit with her I Hate Everyone shirt, which I thought was kind of funny.
She's funny. I love getting to see her when she's, you know, into a guy, but then also seeing how, you know, I mean, Dorrit has so many walls and defenses up, but I think deep down she's like really a sweet kid.
Yeah. Well, and I thought it was almost like poking fun at that like miserable teenage trope that I hate. It was funny.
Totally.
Yeah. And I found, of course, now I find it when we're almost finished, but I found this this website that has fashion for the show. And I guess this shirt was from Topshop at the time, a website called Topshop. But yeah, so the dad, when he tells him he's leaving, he says that he has a cell phone. I was like, what? 1985 this is? Like, I never heard of a cell phone before.
Yeah, I don't know if I didn't even catch that.
I didn't get a cell phone until 99.
Oh my gosh, I don't even think I have one then.
Or 2000.
Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting too. Tom knows.
Because then they try to call it and he doesn't answer. I know, I thought that was weird, but he's working this big case this weekend, so they end up throwing the party, and so the big case is actually he's like doing the prenup for Harlan and Larissa, and he's going through everything, and you find out that Larissa doesn't want to move in with Harlan. And then he creates this solution of getting her an apartment in Harlan's building, and then they can be connected and everything. And I feel like, I guess that's a good solution. And as long as if you don't have children, like you can, I mean, I think children make it more complicated, would make the situation more complicated. Not doable, but I guess it's kind of like similar to what we were talking about with Carrie and Big in the movies, that that they can make their relationship whatever they want.
Whatever they want.
Yeah, because there's just the two of them. Who cares?
It's just, and of course we'll always have this with Sex and the City and all of the content around it. But what's staggering privilege that he can buy another
Right.
apartment in
That's
a
true.
building. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
That's true. So then we have Dorrit has this crush on this guy. I just named him Rebel Guy. I didn't pick up on his name.
I didn't either, and he kind of just like talks like this.
Yeah.
So like it's hard. Yeah, Rebel Guy.
Well, and so that's why she has the party, because Donna tells her that to have the party and that'll be a good chance to talk to him, which I think, especially for this kind of party, seems like not true. Like if it's so crazy, you're not gonna have a chance to like get your flirt on very good, I don't think. But anyway, that's what Donna suggests.
Invite like 8 people over, so it doesn't seem like it's just him that you want. And
Yeah.
and then you're like sitting around, like you said, like even if they're drinking, but they're sitting around, she makes it a fun party, but it's not a rager. That doesn't.
Yeah,
make
I
sense.
agree. I think that's the move. That's the move, to have like some kind of like a teen version of a dinner party. Yeah, as opposed to this big party. But anyway, that's what she does. And then we have the pot brownies, and Mrs. Mead comes over, and she's like a mess. It was kind of funny, I thought. That character.
I love her. This is like the kind of character that I'm like, oh, I would love to play a character like that.
Yeah.
She's so like nerdy and funny, and she's so quick. Like I thought it was really, really well acted, really, really funny.
Yeah. And so then the rebel guy has a friend. I think his name is Scott. I think. Nerdy guy. And obviously he's the one that she should be interested in, and the one that is actually the good guy, and the one that is interested in her.
Yeah, and the thing about him is he's like quite cute. Like I'm like, okay, all right. And doesn't seem like, I mean, Rebel Guy just seems boring.
Yeah. Well, boring, and he also looks a lot older than the other guy. So I don't know how old the actor is, but he looks way older than the nerdy guy, than Scott. And it turns out Rebel Guy has a girlfriend, and doesn't tell Dorrit about that.
I do love how mad Dorrit got, and she's like, get out. Like she was putting up with that nonsense.
Yeah. And Sebastian breaks up the party. And then they find Donna and Mouse are snuggling.
I love that. This is one of my favorite parts where Mouse is like, you're a good snuggler. And Donna's like, you too. I just thought it was so cute.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. And then they clean up from the party, and they almost get away with it, except for they forget that Mrs. Mead is in the closet. That was funny.
It was great. And I love how she was so embarrassed that she just made an excuse about sleepwalking. I mean, I would too. The whole thing felt mortifying.
So then we find out that Sebastian is going to be subletting Larissa's place. So yeah, I guess at least they say, I think in the next episode, that this is rent controlled.
I mean, thank goodness, because it's a nice apartment in a great neighborhood. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was a pretty fun episode. I would give this one, I'd give it like, I think an 8.5.
Yeah, I liked the other one a little bit better, but I still thought this was really solid as we close out on this series. Well,
the other one has Christmas, so it's gonna get a bump from us.
Yes.
The other day I was doing my Fiddler on the Roof review, and I had on a Christmas shirt, and I didn't even think about it. Like, it's just part of my normal clothes. Yeah. And one of the commenters was like, you really do celebrate Christmas year round? I'm like, absolutely.
You sure do. It's my job.
Yeah. So
That's
let us know what you're thinking of these 2 episodes. You got a chance to watch them. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. You can follow us at Sig Girls Pod on Twitter and at the Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast on social media. And Jax, where can people find you?
at Jacqueline C Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We'll have our playlist of all of our Sex and the City content, and I'll have that in the description so you can check that out. And check out the Patreon group and merch store. We are going to be having Rhiannon Fish on Saturday for our patron watch along. It's gonna be super fun. Chance to talk to her, ask questions. So you get those benefits joining the patron. So please check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.